Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. Before we begin, just want to remind you to follow us wherever you listen so you don't miss any episodes or bonus content. If you love what we do and want an easy way to show your support, please consider leaving us a positive, all the stars, rating on your favourite listening platform. It helps SPN and fanfic lovers find us and share in the fun. I'm Kasey.
I'm Sandra, and my brain has gone rogue. Kasey has been told about my idea literally 5 minutes before we started. We had a fic discussion in mind that was suggested by one of our listeners and Discord member, Purple Edge, who is Edge of Clairvoyance on AO3. I then got to thinking more about tags and tropes, which I think we might start calling this segment. If you're a longtime listener, you know we have cannon fodder episodes that we do where we kind of dissect or really dive into like one particular fic that we either like or we're trying to sell to each other or a listener has recommended. Mm-hmm. That can get very lengthy, and it's also, I feel,
it's me. I'm the problem.
No,
it's me.
but it's also, you know, for anybody has never done a podcast, it takes a lot of time and effort, which I will be fully honest right now. My spoon level, energy wise, has not been good. And I think, full disclosure, I've been really burning the candle at both ends for a lot of reasons, and a lot of them, you know, mental health related. I need to kind of like rein myself in a little bit. So what I was thinking is, we might do this thing where if we find a specific tag or trope on AO3 that's piqued our interest, we might talk about it. What I thought would be fun would be for anybody who's maybe a little hesitant about a tag or trope or really doesn't know a lot about it. We kind of break down stats. We go into a wiki that knows all, and we look into like the trope or the tag, and we figure out if this is maybe a yay or nay for us, if we've never read it before, what we didn't like. So that was my overall thought, because I will say, and then Kasey, I will give you a chance because I know I'm kind of just going with it. But for me, I think one of the things I really liked and appreciated about doing this podcast, working with Kasey too on different fics and discussions, is really how much stuff I would have never thought about reading, I give a try. And sometimes it's my thing and sometimes it isn't. And that's okay. And that's how we kind of like want to approach this, and also preface the discussion with, we're going to try to follow the "your kink is not my kink and that's okay" motto. But also we may interject our personal squicks, but that's in no way meant to yuck anybody's yum. You know, at some point, we're probably going to, I'm thinking, might delve into some of our personal kinks that are not others' tastes, you know?
Yeah.
And it's our podcast and we can do that because we can do whatever we want with that.
It's our podcast.
It's our
You don't like it, make your own, but don't do that. Keep listening to ours.
Please listen to ours. But yeah, no, I think going forward, and again, this could just be an experiment. We might try to do a poll on our Discord for tags and tropes to spotlight on the podcast. So if you're a listener and you've thought about it, but you're still a little hesitant, check out our Discord. You know, you can find the link in our episode description, and just join us. Pipe in your ideas or just lurk. Just thumbs up stuff, emoji stuff, whatever. We love to have you be a part of, you know, our little community in more ways than one. But if you just are good listening, that's perfectly okay too. I get it.
That's all right.
Kasey, go. What are your thoughts on what I just threw at you?
Well, see, I knew we were discussing fics today. Mm-hmm. And in a rare moment of forethought, I have read at least one of them beforehand. I was still reading the other one up until Sandra joined the Zoom, but that is irrelevant because I had to, and I did 50% of the assignment before it was due. But that was all I was expecting. And then Sandra was like, "I've had an idea." And I was like, "Cool, all right." And that was all I got. I've had an idea. I'll talk to you about it when we get on Zoom. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know anything about this tags and tropes thing until Sandra literally just fucking told me. Because as we have established, I don't read the documents. Sandra writes them. I don't read them. I do read them, but I read them live,
which is a part of your charm.
Oh, it's so great how you can say so many things and make them sound like fuck off. I was so
I think
impressed with
that's
it.
just the Gen X in me. You know, the sarcasm is just a little, sometimes it's a little too biting in certain regards. I have to dial
No,
that
it's
back a little bit.
fine.
I have to dial that
No,
back a little bit.
no, you don't. No, you don't. I like it. I'm actually bastardizing a book quote there.
Okay.
So, you know, it's not a personal attack on Sandra and her sassy ways, but you know, I get real self-depreciating, and instead of going, no, because she shouldn't have to, because I'm a dickhead and she knows that I'm a dickhead. She's like, yeah. It's refreshing. That's what we're gonna go with. It's refreshing. I love you as well. We're all good. No, I'm super on board with this. I love it because, like Sandra says, canon fodder can get lengthy. Again, hi, it's me. I'm the problem.
No, I think it's both of us. It's both of us when we get going on certain stuff. It's not just you. It's not just you. Go ahead. Continue.
And I'm sorry. I was taking a drink while you were talking. Is that not allowed now? Wow.
Oh yeah, I did it too. Well, look at that. I did it while you were.
Look at that.
We're podcast buddies.
We're wind syncing all over the place today. That's what's happening. But I think, like, over the 2.5 years we've been doing this, I've definitely exhausted recommendations that I am willing to put on the internet. So, you know, and that's not to say that you don't find new stuff and you're like, oh my God, fucking write this. But focusing more on wider tropes, I think, is going to be fun. And yeah, also, I think this might be the first time we've ever done any canon fodder-esque thing when neither of us were quote unquote into the subject matter. And we were like, well, it's, you know, it's an idea, it's a suggestion put forth by, as Sandra said, Discord member Purple Edge. And we were like, yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that. It's been on the list for a minute. Sorry, Edge. And then Sandra, as always, whips us into shape and was like, we're going to fucking do this. And I went, send me some links. Tell me what you want to read and I'll read whatever you want to read. Because I read faster than Sandra.
Yes, this is very true. This
is the first time that neither of us have been like into the thing. And yeah, Sandra was like, we're going to do this. And I was like, cool, send me what you want to read and I'll read. Like, you tell me what you want to read and I'll read what you want to read. Because I read faster than Sandra. But the topic for this, I don't know what we're going to call this. Canon fodder.
We're going to call it Tags
tropes?
and Tropes. I like tags and tropes. I think we're called Tags and Tropes.
Yeah, okay. So this topic is de-aging fix, which initially, if you're going, I get it, right? Okay, yeah, I get it. Not that kind of de-aging fix, but they're like teen and general, and they're not focused on smut whatsoever, at least the ones that we have looked at today. Sandra has stats, which we'll go into.
I was gonna start with, so I went to the fan lore website, and I'll provide like a link to it. And I was just gonna read a little bit of their de-aging. De-aging is a story trope where adult characters are turned back into children or younger adults. The transformation can be fully physical and mental. It can also be a physical transformation that leaves the adult mind in a younger body, or the opposite, where the mind is reverted to a childlike state, but the body remains as is. As Kasey was saying, I think this covers a broad amount of ways stories can go, but a lot of times, you know, it could be written in a humorous way. It's crackfic is mentioned, hurt comfort, forcing characters to take care of each other. And it can also be a serious examination of changed power dynamics in the characters' relationships. The page is really interesting because they actually, one of the first ones they mentioned, de-aging in canon, they mentioned a Supernatural episode. They talk about meat swap.
Talk about that.
Yeah, if you want to talk about that, because I know that's one of your favorite episodes. Go ahead, talk about that one.
No, so this is still from the fan lore wiki. Specific instances in Supernatural is the season 5 episode Meat Swap, where Sam is body swapped into, oh my God, what was his fucking name? Gary.
Okay. Yes, Gary. I said it your way. Gary.
Not Gary. Completely.
Gary.
Gary with an A, because it's spelled Gary. Yeah, yes. That's just fucking Graham all over again. And Craig. Gary. That'll be a great outtake. Just make that an outtake. Just me going, Gary. Yeah, Gary. And he's like, just fucking really like that episode. I love that Sam just being thrown into this normal family and being like, what the fuck? Do you not just jerk off like a normal kid? What the fuck is wrong with you? And obviously then the flip side of Gary. I'm not gonna be able to say that right now ever again. the flip side of that, of Gary, like, being so comically bad at adulting, and, drinking and fucking and all that kind of stuff. But that is one example. Another example is in the 10th season. I forget what the episode is actually called, but it's the Hansel and Gretel one where Dean gets turned.
Called About a Boy. I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I like too. Mm-hmm.
Another one of my favorites. It's up, it's down. I don't know what's happening. I got no grass on the infield and a girl's going to die. God damn that actor. Young Dean actor.
He's
but
really good.
Is it Dylan Everett, that one?
Yeah.
Somebody else.
Mm-hmm. It's Dylan Everett. Yeah, he's my favorite. He's my favorite
legend.
Dean.
Yeah. You can tell that him and Jensen spent a lot of time together to get it right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would also argue, although it's not technically de-aging, there's an element of that in regarding Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Although that's not the intention, but you do end up with a childlike mental Dean in an adult body.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so just so we're all clear, de-aging, not like that. We're not talking about extreme underage smut here.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons that I hadn't looked at it, because I'm a fucking pervert. And I was like, if there's no dicks, I'm not interested.
I think for me that was, and again, like as we get into with some of the stats and stuff, I think when I first heard about it, that's immediately what I thought was going to be out there. And I don't think I, was interested in really looking into it much. I think it says, Edge, Purple Edge, who gave this recommendation, also writes a lot of like domestic, like pre-series stuff, domestic discipline, which I did not understand like that could go a lot of other ways than what, I was assuming it would go.
That one was harder for me than this one, because I was like, oh, but it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but it's right there. It's right there. You just get your dicks out. It's right there.
Yeah.
That one was a little bit harder for me, because I was just like, but the porn is right there. Like, it's right there, guys. You don't even have to reach that far for it. It's fucking standing next to you. But these amazing writers that write those kind of things, they just don't. And like, fair play to you. If you put a dick within that much grasp of me, I'm getting it out. I'm going to always tell you, this is different. So
I guess for anybody who like has been hesitant, I think this is kind of like giving you some ideas about AO3. I did a little bit of like, digging into some
screenshots.
I did some screenshots because I just thought it'd be easier. So when I went and looked at AO3, the number of fics that have, also it's not just called de-aging on AO3. The tag is age regression / de-aging. There are a lot of other different ways that you can tag, but I just went with this one because I feel like that's like might be the main like wrangled tag, that people try to put things under. But I know there's just like de-age fix, de-aging, like a lot of different ways to do it. But this looked like it was the biggest pool of tags that people were tagging this type of work under. So age regression / de-aging. Across all fandoms, there are 31,293 fics with this tag. In Supernatural, and I just did a quick check, like Supernatural TV 2005 was there 955, Supernatural RPF 15 for a total of 970. So not that many in terms of the overall amount that's there, but still I think enough that, if people are interested in looking into it, they might find something that they enjoy. When all is said and done, the ratings go, okay. So this is where we start to get like, I think you gotta, if you're going to dive into this and you have certain things you want to avoid, you've kind of got to pay attention to notes, summary, tags, ratings. So out of the 900 some, general audience's rating is about 343, teen and up 260, not rated 142, explicit 115, mature 95. Do you want to talk about the warnings one, Kasey?
Yeah, I can do. Look at it, just throwing me things like I'm going to do my fucking job.
Yeah, well, I figure we can go back and forth on it, or else I'll just go through
it. So with the warnings, we've got 335 that are tagged no archive warnings apply. 324 that are tagged created chose not to use no archive warnings. Now we've covered this before, but that is not a green light for go. That is a pay attention kind of thing. That's not a no, this will be fine. That's a there may be something that isn't necessarily
and
tagged.
why
So
might somebody use it?
you might use it if you like you have a twist that you don't want to spoil. You're playing sort of close on the boundaries with some things and you're not sure if it does or it doesn't cross over, or it doesn't fall into any of the 4 main warnings that the archive gives you. I've just used it on a fic of mine because I wasn't 100% sure that it was enough to fall under one of those other tags, but it definitely needed something. So it's kind of like either like there's nothing there, green light. It's one of these 4 things that the archive actually gives you, or it's something else. You know, just pay attention. But there's 324 that are tagged chose not to use archive warnings. 84 of them are tagged underage, which makes me feel in some kind of way.
Yeah.
56 of them are tagged graphic oh, fucking speak today. Graphic depictions, shapeshifter, of violence. 40 are tagged rape/non-con, which also leaves me feeling some kind of way. And 22 are tagged major character death. So I'm just going to stop right there. In the spirit of what Sandra said in the intro, which is that we massively subscribe to your kink is not my kink, and that is okay. I'm fully on board with that. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. But certain things leave me feeling some kind of way. We have not and will not be looking at anything in this episode, and I would probably say in any episode that we might cover that's going to cover seriously underage sex, basically. Like I'm squiffy if you give me something under 16. I'm real fucking, like, I'm kind of out if you give me something under, like, 10. Like, and I'm uncomfortable under 13, you know? So we're not going to be looking at that. We're not going to be covering that. I have no interest in reading that. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to yuck your yum. I just don't want to talk about it. Okay? But like Sandra said, it's our podcast, and I'll tell you that those warnings give me some kind of feelings.
Yeah, same. Same. And again, I think that was my hesitancy, you know, like even going into looking, at stuff, because I think as a responsible reader for yourself, you do really have to know sometimes it's better maybe not to delve into certain things. There can be, for lots of people, there's trauma in all sorts of different things that you don't realize. And sometimes that's just not a place your brain needs to go for your own benefit. So I think, it's good to take care of yourself when you're really taking time with fan fiction in general, and any type of fiction, any type of media. So just take care of what's good for you, and be mindful of that. When you research.
When you research, and as we always say, heed the tags. Heed the tags.
Yeah.
A good author will not blindside you by not tagging something that really should be tagged. So just like, I don't know, this feels like just not quite shaky territory, but I'm just like, I imagine a lot of people's brains will go to the first place our brains went to, which is like, fucking what? And it's not all that. It's not all that. But we cannot definitively say it's none of that, because it, like, the stats speak for themselves. It is out there. We're not interested in looking at it. If you're not interested in looking at it, heed the tags. If you are interested in looking at it, we ain't judging. It's out there.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave that there. Sandra, what kind of categories are we looking at?
So categories. So male/male is 439. General is 390. Female/male 118. Other 31. Multi 30. Female/female 25. I'm assuming some of this stuff might be categories, maybe not. I'm assuming not based on, like, say the youngins involved, but that could be lots of different ways too. So we're just going to leave that be. I would say if you're really just wanting to look at the aspect of de-aging from sort of like a Sam and Dean perspective, if those are your like main blorbos, again, not Sam/Dean, but Sam and Dean, I think general might be the safest one to look into first. And then sometimes it is just a matter, I think we've probably come across or would come across some that might be male/male, but don't have, say, another warning or something, in the tag. So again, that's it's all about checking out what you're reading before you really get into it. So I would say, yeah, that one's a little kind of vaguer for me because it could go a lot of different ways in terms of who you're like, what relationships you're talking about category wise. But then that leads into relationships, Kasey, if you want to go with that one.
Absolutely. So we've got, for relationships, we've got Castiel / Dean Winchester, which would usually denote a romantic or sexual relationship between them. And there are 290 that are tagged as that. Then you have Dean Winchester and, so the little ampersand symbol, Sam Winchester, which would denote a platonic relationship of any kind. And there's 122 of them. Dean Winchester / Sam Winchester, 133. Castiel and Dean Winchester, 86. Gabriel / Sam Winchester, 53. Castiel and Sam Winchester, 45. Castiel / Sam Winchester, this is getting confusing, 46. Castiel and Dean Winchester and Sam Winchester, 36. Gabriel and Sam Winchester, 17. Jack Klein and Sam Winchester, 14. That's so fucking cute.
That one sounds like an interesting one. And I'm sure there are probably more, but again, they just show, I think, like the major ones in order first. So there could be a handful of like Jack Klein and Dean Winchester too, I'm imagining. Yeah.
This is Sandra's taken them directly from the sort of the sidebar of AO3. So that shows you
the tippy tops,
most common, the tops, the most common. Yeah. So that would imagine there are any number of other orientations. Is not the word I want. Help me.
Just just
configurations.
Who's dealing with who?
Yeah.
Who's interacting with who, I think is probably like what the majority of it is.
Specify. And this is the tagging system on AO3 is not particularly intuitive if you don't know or you don't have anything to base it on. So I would imagine maybe some of those / relationships actually are platonic and relationships. It's just because when you start typing in, it gives you the / relationships first. You have to like keep typing to get the and ones to tag properly. So I would imagine that has something to do with it. But again, heed the tags, just be aware of, because it should not be such shaky ground, but there is, your kink is not my kink and that's okay. But I just want to be real fucking clear, like, look, observe what is happening.
Yeah. And then, so that leads into the additional tags, which is where, the writers, authors will kind of give you an idea of what you can expect in the story before full out, like say reading the summary. And again, this just depends on the author. Some people tag heavily, some people tag light.
All the tags.
Yeah. So age regression / de-aging is at the top with 612. Physically de-aged Dean Winchester is next at 230. Fluff, 226. Physically de-aged Sam Winchester, 159. Non-sexual age play, 144. Hurt / comfort, 123. Physically de-aged Castiel Supernatural, 117. Angst, 87. Alternate universe canon divergence, 83. Protective Dean Winchester, one of my favorite tags, 82. So that was like the tippy top of additional tags. So I think what we ended up coming about doing was we picked two fics. I picked one in addition to the recommendation from Edge, because Love You Edge, for me, it was a long fic. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get through the whole thing probably right before we were set to record, but I wanted to kind of dip my toe in and pick something a little bit shorter that kind of had tags that I was interested in. So using, AO3's sort of filter, I found one called As You Were by Kat Zen. It's rated teen and up. No archive warnings apply. Categories general. Characters Castiel, Dean Winchester, Sam Winchester. No relationship tags listed. And then additional tags were kid fic, de-aged Dean Winchester, de-aged Sam Winchester, kids remembering trauma, emotional, hurt, comfort. This is back from like 2015. So I got through this one because this one's only about 8,000 words. And I like it because it actually kind of, it's a bit different than the other one that we're going to talk about that Edge recommended, because it's focusing on the fact that Sam and Dean are de-aged physically and they are kid level, like it inside, like brain wise, like they are at the age that they are representing. They do not have any of the memories, any of the experiences of adulthood, even though things are starting to kind of like pop in that trigger stuff. They are literally kids. I believe, oh my gosh,
they are 6 and 2.
Yes. So Dean is 6, Sam is 2. He broke my heart. Dean broke my heart in this in so many ways. It was truly emotional. And it was funny because Kasey screenshot something and sent it over to me. That was one of the things that I had probably like had broken me. So to know that it had broken them as well was like, you know, I knew it was going to, but then for that to be just a thing. The basic premise of the story is, you know, that Dean is tiny in all the ways. And he's been left by John, but Cass is sort of like their caretaker. And he's like, he doesn't know Cass. He doesn't know much about Cass. So he's kind of like really focusing on Cass at a very kid level. And the reactions and the feelings that I find very interesting is he bases a lot of how he deals with other adults based off of his relationship he has with his father. And there's a lot of comparing and contrasting and a lot of uncertainty about himself as a child. And he uses the word disappoint. He breaks my heart. So, and his big thing is I think he's just outside for no reason. Cass finds him, brings him in. He's cold. He's got to get warmed up. He's like, oh my, I think he might be dealing with hypothermia, maybe something like that. I think he might be dealing with, because he's got to get inside and get bundled up, and he's got to get put into a bath. And it's all of these things that Cass is trying to do to help him. I do really love Cass in this because I feel that he is the best caretaker possible in a very just, these are the boys I'm in charge of situation. And he does it in a very old school Cass way, which I miss about him because he's still learning things too. But you also get the feeling based on the fic itself. It's been it's bunker times. So he's been with them and a part of their lives for a while, and they are his friends and a part of his family, but he can't really explain that, you know, to a 6-year-old Dean. And Dean, through the course of, I feel like it's a few days or it might be a week. I'm not sure how long it is. But he kind of grows to appreciate and not only trust Cass, but trust Cass with Sam, which I think is a big thing too. And all of this, I've got to take care of Sammy. Like, one of the immediate things is, even though he should be worried about his own well-being, is like, where's Sam, you know, when he comes back in.
Can I just interject at that point? My youngest child has just turned 6 a couple of weeks ago. And I wouldn't ask him to take care of a fucking stuffed animal. Never mind an actual real life human being.
Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, that is no disrespect to my baby. He is the bestest, but he's fucking 6.
Yeah.
Y'all.
Yeah.
He can't reach the sink to get himself a glass of water. And he's a tall kid, by the way. He's a tall kid. He's not like, you know, like, I'm tall, my husband is tall, this kid is tall. All right. But he can't reach the tap at the back of the kitchen sink to make himself a drink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't. What the fuck? I don't know. There's just something about having because when you think of the boys in Supernatural, you're either thinking of them right where it all kicks off with a 6-month-old Sam and a 4-year-old Dean, or you're thinking of them in the flashbacks that we see where they're kind of older and, you know, like, they can reach the sink and make a sandwich, you know? We never really see that toddler stage of Sam and how that must have been. So to be in this fic and be like, wait, no, I have one of those. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust him to run the hot tap. Never mind the fucking house. What?
Yeah.
No. Really, really threw me. And like the concept that like Castiel is obviously the adult, but Dean speaks the language of a 2-year-old better, you know, and he can say, no, Sam is tired, that's why he's grumpy, he's not hungry, or this, that, like,
well, it's also the hyper
wild.
focus on Sam, the fact that he was, basically like he was in charge of Sam, like, I mean, let's not sugarcoat that, in our love for John Winchester, like he was the primary caregiver for Sam. So I feel like he just knew, instinctually based off of what he had to grow up with, what he needed to do, that was his only maybe a 2-year time span when he was given that duty, and he was already, oh God, this story. It's a lot. Anybody who really focuses on love for the boys, I think their hearts will just, I don't know, explode with anger, wanting to take care of them, this called like protection sort of situation. I think the writer does a really good job of the language of a kid. You know what I mean? Like kind of like, because Dean's again in this space where he's de-aged, but then through nightmares, he's experiencing trauma of hell. I would assume at this point, I don't know if it's purgatory yet. I'm not sure.
No, it's just hell.
Yeah, it's hell. But then on the flip side of that, you've got a 2-year-old Sam who's got nightmares of being in the cage, that kind of a thing. So the
what
way
do you even fucking do with that?
Yeah,
I've had a kid that had night terrors, and they are,
it's to know, like, to know that I think Cass knows that, even though maybe Dean doesn't yet, of what Sammy's going through, or even like processing in his brain, and probably doesn't even have the vocabulary of a 6-year-old. There's a lot in this story. I just wanted to read a couple things that I highlighted, and then Kasey, I think you should read that one that you found.
Yeah.
But this is Dean looking at Cass, and this is early on in the story. Whatever he saw seemed to disappoint him, and he sighed, and Dean curled in a little bit, hoping that he wasn't the disappointment. This next one, the look was annoyed, and it startled Dean. Castiel had been really careful with him before. Dean knew it when he saw it, that Castiel was holding back, being nicer than he could have been. He could see it in his dad sometimes, that holding back, that effort. It was harder for his dad than it was for Castiel. Castiel made it look easy. That really hurt. Sometimes I think maybe we just don't want to put ourselves, I know sometimes I just don't want to put ourselves through this. Oh, and this one I think was when he was in bed with Sam, because I think this was Sam had the night terrors, and, Dean didn't know what to do with that. And he was also a little bit scared, of that. And I think he gives him, they both get stuffed animals, and Dean's
fish.
he gets a horse, and I can't remember what Sam.
It's an orca. It's an orca. But Sam's too, and he calls it a fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Castiel does what? Like, I'm not saying that Castiel is supposed to be a portrayal of.
He angel-splains.
Well, I'm not saying that he's supposed to be a portrayal of anybody with autism. Like, I'm not saying that. But Castiel does what I would do, which is he can't just go, yeah, it's a fish. He's like, technically it's a marine mammal.
I like that there's also, even with 6-year-old Dean, there's a little bit of an annoyance that you get that, is transferable to
just like
the
it's
older.
A fish. Shut up.
Yeah. But Dean, so I think Dean's in bed, or no, he's okay. Something's about the stuffed animal. He heard the little sigh he let out just too late to stop it from happening. It was pretty soft and pink, but really soft, and big enough to rest his head on or curl up with at night. And probably it didn't kick like Sammy did. He climbed up on the couch and knelt in front of the toy, studying it. The horse stared straight ahead, of course, but in its inattention was a kind of comfort. It didn't expect anything of him. It was okay with him just being there. And I could go on, but I'm not going to. I have a couple of things highlighted. But what was the one that really kind of like...
No, actually, I want to talk about that one first.
Okay.
Because there's a bit around that where Dean kind of like accepts the toy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, yeah, okay, it's a horse, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then Castiel comes in, and Dean's immediately ready to give it up.
Yeah.
At the slightest hint that Castiel is gonna make fun of him for wanting a toy, cuddling the toy, maybe the fact that it's pink, even though Castiel bought it. So I don't know. But like he's just immediately ready to give up the source of comfort because he thinks that he's going to be mocked for it. And that, oh my God, that hurts my heart. That hurts my heart.
Yeah.
And again, like, don't want to get out my stupid little as a parent soapbox, but like, I will tell you now, my children are 12 and 6, and both of them still sleep with stuffed animals. Admittedly, the stuffed animals that my 12-year-old sleeps with have got proportionally bigger to them as they have got older, but they still sleep with stuffed animals in the bed.
Yeah.
And that is we have never once, they've kicked out a whole bunch of stuffed animals, and a whole bunch of them have gone by the wayside and they've gone to new homes, or my little list has taken them, but they still have this source of comfort in their bed, even as like, almost a teen now. And of course, the baby is 6. So he not only does he sleep with stuffed animals, he carts them around the fucking house. They come downstairs in the morning and he plays. And sometimes they just hang out on the sofa, but they come downstairs and then they go right the fuck back upstairs at bedtime. So again, seeing this part of the story that we never really got to see in canon and being able to put it against one of my children, my fucking soul, the idea, the concept that one of my children would.
There's also one other part where the author pulls from something you see flashback in the show from season 1 about the cereal. And this is when the boys are back in the bunker. And Dean's like, Dean liked cereal. The sugarier, the better. They had this one at the bunker that had marshmallows in it. And that one was just the best. And there was enough for him and Sammy to both have some every morning if they wanted to. That was the best part. Sammy liked it too. And Dean didn't have to pick who was going to get the last bowl. They could both have it. Not like he'd ever not pick Sammy anyway.
Actually, it's probably worth putting in here that the summary for this story is Dad said crying was for babies. Dean Winchester was not a baby.
Yeah. It's so sad. It's so sad.
Okay, so actually, before I get on to the thing that broke me, because this ties in really well, I had never even looked at this trope like at all. So I went into it and I was like, oh, so maybe it's like you make the boys kids and then you can care for them and look after them. And like I've done similar things with my work. You take the boys outside of canon and you put them somewhere nice and you can wrap them up and fluffy, and it's kind of like almost like a rewrite of history, even though it's not. But it's like you can give them all the things you wish they'd had.
Yeah.
So I went into this thinking that this was this kind of thing, and then it fucking wasn't. And I was reading this going, I'm so confused. Why have you made them children to put them through this hell? I'm so confused. And that is like, that remains with me. This fic is incredible, but I'm so confused because I need an adult for this. I need like Edge, hit us up in emails. I need to understand what the draw, because if you want to beat the guys over the head, you can do that as adults. And again, I'm not yucking anybody's yum. There is clearly something, and I get it more with the second fic that we're going to talk about. There is clearly something that you go, oh, that's it.
I wonder if some of it too is because at the end of this fic, spoilers, but they get, Cass figures out what to do. And to me, I feel like it almost gives Dean sort of a lens, and Sam, I'm sure, but, because the main focus is Dean, to process maybe what he went through again as a child and to see what he wasn't allowed. It's almost like, I think, a therapy thing for him, because then he's able to take part of that childhood that was good with him as a reminder, because Cass gave him this little bubble of this is what it could be like. This is what you get. And he gets the memory of that, which I think add to that all of the trauma. It definitely doesn't balance it out, but it gives him something to reflect on and to maybe grow with and learn from in his brain to see what he was allowed to have as a kid for a short amount of time. Because I hate the ones where they wipe stuff and then they don't, he doesn't get that memory. This is a good memory, even though you're seeing it contrast with all of his realizations as a kid. There's one more, and I don't think this is the one that you had, but
no, we should probably talk about the one that I had, because I'm like, wait, no, I have more things.
Yeah, go ahead, and then I got another one.
The one that stood out for me, the one that I screenshotted and sent to Sandra, and was like, So, like we said, Dean starts to remember, and the way in which he remembers is he has nightmares. And Sam also has nightmares, but you can't ask a 2-year-old if they remember being an adult, because that's not how 2-year-olds work.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time he has this nightmare, and obviously it's like wakes him up, and it's very, very traumatic for Dean. Castiel kind of like puts him on the sofa to like look after him and stuff like that. And Cass kind of like broaches it like most parents would, which is just like, hey, do you remember your dream from last night? Like, do you remember what it was? And Dean says that he remembers hell, and there's like a snuggle, and it's real nice. And Cass is like, I'm sorry, I wish that you hadn't. And then like just grab a bag to get your guts, guys. Just be like, grab a bag to hold all the guts that are about to be ripped out of you. Dean says, was I bad? Is that why I went? Because I was bad. And I shit you, I nearly threw my iPad across the room. I was like, fucking no! What the fuck?
I think that's where he gets
words.
Someone to tell him, though, that's not what, you know what I mean? Like he gets someone to give him the no, you were a hero, like all those things that I feel like we all want to say to them to make them understand that they're not bad, because they hold on to this trauma as adults, like everybody does as a kid. Sometimes you just don't get out of that. You're always a kid deep down. You're protecting. Sometimes you're sheltering. Sometimes you're trying to avoid that little kid inside. And I think it's about learning to be loving to that kid that had to go through all of those things for whatever reason, that they did the best that they could.
See, that's so interesting, because it was inevitable that me and Sandra would look at these fics in different ways, because obviously I have children and Sandra doesn't. I love that you see it that way, but that is not, I can't see it that way.
Right.
Because like, like if you're in a group of people and everyone has anxiety, but one person needs to do a thing, somebody in that group will get mum override.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, I can do the thing. Okay, well, like I have to have mum override because I actually have children.
Yeah.
So all I see from that is the absolute impotence of a parent to be able to help.
Right.
So like in this particular situation, my eldest had night terrors when they were little. And even now, when they are unwell and they have a fever, they have really bad fever dreams. And they get that from me because I also have it, but I'm like an adult and I'll be like, no, nothing's coming out of the walls, fucking pack at it, but it scares them. And, reasonably so. And there is, I do not have the words to describe to you the absolute uselessness that you feel sitting with a child who is screaming and crying because they can see something that you can't.
Yeah.
And it's not real. It's because they are unwell or they're coming out of a nightmare or whatever. But the image of my child looking over my shoulder, eyes open, but not really awake, screaming and crying because they can see something in the shadows behind me that I can't see. And I have no way to help them, to protect them, to make it better. There is nothing I can do as a parent or a person to take this away from them. And that is agonizing. And it is horrific. So this, I see where Sandra's coming from in that Dean got to hear that, no, you weren't bad. You were brave and you were good. And that is why you did this thing. I can't get there and
you can't disconnect.
I can't put myself in Dean's shoes and hear that no and that reassurance, because I am in Castiel's shoes with this child that I cannot soothe and I cannot help and I cannot take away. And this is not a parenting podcast, but that is something that I'm really grappling with, especially as my oldest gets older, is that the hurts become things that you can't kiss away
and put a boo-boo. Yeah.
It's not a boo-boo that you can put a plaster on. It's real emotional hurt. And you can sit with them and you can be by their side as they go through it, but you cannot take it away. And that is, I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently. And obviously I've lost my mum, and this friend has not lost their mum, thankfully. But it was around the time of the anniversary of my mum's passing, and I make a Facebook post about it every year, and those Facebook posts are never great. But I kind of use them like a diary. So I write down everything I'm feeling that year, and then I can look back on them and I can be like, oh, this is where I was this year. And it's kind of like a diary of my grief and how it's evolving and changing over the years. And I never expect anybody to do anything with it. You know, I'm never like, I'm not like vague posting for attention. This is just a place that I put, like, my Facebook is fairly private. But my friend's mum had mentioned to their friend that they didn't know what I wanted with these posts, because she is of the generation where you like and you interact but she couldn't do that with my post because it is very raw, bleeding grief. You know, there ain't no heart emoji that you can stick on that. So my friend had said, well, Kasey, me, doesn't want anything. They're just kind of venting. And the conversation sort of turned that me putting this uncensored grief out into the world had actually really rattled my friend's mum, and she didn't know what to do with it. And it had left her feeling some kind of way that, like, she was concerned that when she passes, as we all do, that was the state that her daughter, my friend, was going to be left in. You know, like, I was like, well, okay, like, reassure your mum, like, we're in very different life stages, and it's very different. You have a very different relationship with your mum, and it's just very different. And the method of my mum's passing is an enormous part of why I am the way I am. It is not solely because I lost my mum. There's like a whole shit around it. But I was explaining to my friend, there is an enormous sense of fear as a parent, especially with this one particular thing, that the passing of a parent, that is, you hope, the worst thing that your child is ever going to go through, and you will not be there in any capacity, not even to sit beside them and say, this sucks, but I'm with you. You would just not be there. And that is, it's very frightening to consider that this is one of, like, you would hope the hardest thing your child will ever have to go through, and you won't be there to even accompany them down that road. And that's kind of where I'm at with this, where it's that I want to resonate with Dean and be like, yes, soothe the inner child. Yes, we're good people. We're brave. We didn't go to hell because we were bad. But I'm glued into Castiel's shoes going, oh my God, this fucking baby. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be interesting if other people, you know, give it a read, and based on, you know, where they are in their lives, what they're, you know, with children, child free, what resonates with them in this. It'll be interesting. Be interesting to hear if anybody gives it a go. But yeah, if you do end up reading it, you know, let us know, you know, what you kind of pull out of it. What kind of, like, just really, like, sits with you. I think. What
did you think about the way the ending goes down? Did you have any feelings about that? Because I had feelings about that.
I mean, I like that little bit at the end. It's just a sentence a couple sentences at the end, but it's almost like this little amulet or talisman that I feel like he has with him to remind him of things at the end that I find comforting for him. But I think that's all I really kind of focused on. Really, was just like that little part. Of course you did. But yeah, that was kind of how I, like, twisted it, where he gets something good. He finally gets something good, I feel like, to watch over him. So many things he was told were watching over him that weren't. He has things that are that are good in his life that are watching over him now. He has Cass. You
Yeah.
know,
Now,
he and Sam have that, you know.
My issue with the ending is that Castiel does find a way to reverse the curse. That's a fucking that's an Escape the Fate song. It's a really good one as well. It's really catchy. But Castiel leaves the decision to Dean. Cass says, "I will not make this choice for you. If you want to stay as children, I will look after you." And that is so much weight to put on a 6-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, as we've established, wouldn't let my 6-year-old run the hot tap.
Yeah.
Never mind make life-altering decisions like this.
Yeah.
But there's this line, because all the way through, Dean never remembers who Castiel is. He starts to remember different things about like his life as an adult, but he never remembers who Castiel is. And there's this that Castiel asks him, did you never remember me? And Dean says no. And Castiel says, "You have always been my charge. You have always been mine to protect. However old you are, that is my job." And y'all know that I have some feelings about Castiel, and they're not necessarily feelings about Castiel, they are just spillover from Misha. But I left this fic feeling I loved this Castiel. This was who he was supposed to be before it all got fucked up. You know, if we take out the fact that the writers were just like, oh, what if it just bends a little? Before everything got fucked up, back in season 4, I am the one who grips you tight and raised you from perdition. This is who he was supposed to be. This caretaker. And I really liked this spin on that, that it didn't matter where or when in time Dean was. Castiel would always be there for him. And there's a real pureness to that gets lost very quickly in the show that I felt this author really captured and really, really brought back, that I really loved with. And Dean keeps the pony at the end.
Yeah.
When he's a big Dean again.
Yeah.
He keeps the pony.
It's just one line, and I think to me it just says so much about that little bit of time that he's been given. I think also, like, we talked a lot about the context of the boys and how it's hard. You can't take these characters and really put them in a real life situation that doesn't have angels and demons and monsters, and
context is key. You have to keep
really
them in their world.
And I think with these characters in particular, you know, their choices are always weighty. And even at this age, you know, because of everything he's been given, it's a burden for him to have to, you know, make that decision as well at 6. And he gives reasons for it even at 6.
To break your fucking heart as well.
Your heart. Yeah. Yeah. But we could probably talk about this fic for a while. We are going to switch over. You may have read more of this one, Kasey, than I have. And again, this is the
yes.
Purple Edge recommendation. I think I'm in chapter 3 at this point, so I have not.
Oh, I've just started chapter 6, so I'm a little bit further ahead than you.
I will say I feel that this one has a very different vibe to it, and it's a better vibe. I think in terms of not slightly. It is no, because it's not significantly. It is less wumpy, but we say that as two people who have not finished the story, and I will say chapter 3 to chapter 6, there is a hell of a lot more wump. There's a tag in this that I'm so looking forward to. Do you know what it is? When you look at the tags.
Is it badass wee Sam?
No.
No.
Well, I still like that, but there's another one that I'm so looking forward to that I haven't gotten to yet.
Tissue warning? Detective Sam Winchester? Oh, no. Yeah, no, I see it now. I see it now. Yeah. Okay. This is tagged Awesome Missouri.
Yes. I can't wait for this.
Yes, she deserved better. Hashtag Missouri deserved better.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, I haven't got to that yet. So.
Since you've read more of it, and it's more Sam, it's definitely like more Sam focused. What is this one? What is this one called? What's it about? All those good things.
So this one is called Goodnight Moon, and it's by Dragonfly Soul. The summary of this is: leaning further into each other, they stood their ground. It was how they had survived every storm they've ever weathered. It was how they would survive this one too. All up in the fields. We're all up in the fields. So what like my favorite tags for this is Wee Sam and Badass Wee Sam. And he has definitely lived up to those names. It's coming with like emotional hurt comfort, hurt Sam, sick Sam, fluff and humor, protective Sam Winchester, protective Dean Winchester, angst and humor.
Did you see the art for this?
I did not. I couldn't. Hang on a minute.
Oh
no, wait, there's art.
It's in the chat. It's in the chat. Click
wait, there's art. There's art. Wait. Fucking hell. Oh my god, that is the cutest fucking thing. Oh my god, I'm screaming. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, when I saw that there was, I had to, I'm going to try to, while you're chit-chatting, I'm going to try to find the art that was supposed to be.
Yeah, there wasn't a link. That was supposed to be art for the Way We Were, because that's a reverse bang, but there wasn't a link or anything, so I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So whilst Andrew's looking for that, I will fill you in. So basically, we start with the flashback, first of all, but then we flip to one week earlier, and we're with Dean running. Now, this says that it's set after 312, just in Bellow. But I didn't understand like the monster reference or anything.
The Leashy? I didn't. I feel like I've
That's
heard
the Paris Hilton one. That's Fallen Idols. The god in that episode is a Leashy. I googled it, but nothing. Okay. This is not corresponding with that case.
Of it, though, I felt like they talked a little bit about it was a little different.
But then it turns out that it's not actually a Leashy at all. It's a different monster. But I didn't.
Well, see, I didn't get there yet. Okay, got it.
Sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, there's like it kind of grounds you in the scene, but unfortunately, Dragonfly Soul, it went over my head. I took full responsibility for that, not you. It like Dean is carrying Sam running through the woods, and you're like, that's a fucking feat. He's enormous. But then you find out that actually it's adult brain Sam in 4-year-old Sam body. That's what's happened. He's been cursed, and now he's in the body of a 4-year-old, but he's still mentally Sam. Yeah, that's kind of the setup for this, and that's what we're going through. So we've got Bobby in this fic. Dean takes Sam to Bobby's, and he's like, I don't know what happened, man. He's little. He's little. And there is actually a moment where someone says that Sam is 3 foot tall, and he pipes up 3.5 because he's measured, because that is what children do. They are very, very attached to those decimal points of ages and heights. And like while Dean and Bobby and Sam, to start with, trying to figure out what the fuck has happened, there ends up being this kind of Sam ends up reversing mentally to a child as well. And when he's Sammy, let's say, he doesn't have any, he's genuinely his 4-year-old self. So he's asking Dean where Dad is and why is Dean so big? Because it's not the Dean that 4-year-old Sam recognizes. And then when he's Sam, he's researching, he's trying to help, but he's sick as well. This spell is having, I'm assuming, I haven't finished the story, but that's kind of what the vibe is looking like. It's having like a physical effect on him as well. And where I am at, the three of them have kind of figured out what the monster is and kind of figured out what the spell was and what it was designed to do. And now they're trying to figure out how the fuck to reverse it. And there are things that I'm not actually going to spoil on this podcast because Sandra hasn't got there yet that are going to fucking rip her heart out. Okay. So I'm going to need you to come back to me when you've got to them and be like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
But this has a very different vibe to the other one, where the other one was just this kind of, like, it was kind of very focused on just this very small blip in time. Goodnight Moon is over a longer period. So you have, you cannot stay at like a 9 out of 10 intensity for weeks on end. Like it's physiologically impossible. So you have like breaks where, when we first kind of get to Bobby's, Sam has no pants on. And I definitely feel like I would have remembered a case where Sam lost his fucking pants. But I don't, so whatever. He's in his adult clothes. But then obviously his torso would be like the shirts that cover his torso are long enough to cover to his ankles. Right. But Dean has to go and buy like Sam size clothes. And I don't know if you've ever seen kids' clothes, but they tend to have like slogans and shit on them. So that ends up being a source of humor that Sam is really pissed that he's got to walk around in these fucking like grandma's love bug t-shirts and shit.
Oh, like Dean's I Love Hugs one when he's like, yeah.
Yeah. So Dean like goes and buys clothes. And you know, there's a moment where Bobby has a new dog. Because I'm pretty sure his dog in the show wasn't called Lazarus.
It was Rumsfeld.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
But no, he has a new dog. And this dog is like obviously enormous. So there is this moment where Sam's kind of like tosses off outside. And this dog is just, like, it doesn't attack him or anything, but it, like to a 4-year-old. And he reaches for his gun, which is not in his waistband. And there's like this moment of him being like, yeah, in his Lightning McQueen fucking jeans that really, really tickled me.
Oh.
Like Dean has to take him shopping and things, and like he gets barged over, and like Dean has to like pick him up because he nearly walks out in front of a car and stuff like that, and all these kind of like slice of life comedy things that come with having a small child,
right?
But we see them through the eyes of Sam, who thinks exactly none of them are funny.
Yeah,
and there's a really big emphasis on how small and humiliated Sam feels when he's Sam in his mind, that he's in this little 3.5 feet tall body.
Yeah.
And nobody, you know, like, I tend to find this more with people who don't have children. People who don't have children don't look at that eye line when they're walking. And I have had people walk into my children and I have been like, fucking what though? Not quite like that, you know. I'm British, so what I do is I let them get about 3 steps away, and then I turn around and go, excuse you, really loudly. Because then I feel vindicated, like I've said something, but they're probably not going to come and have a go. But, you know, again, I'm not knocking all people who don't have children, but it does tend to be a people that don't have children, they just, your eyes just naturally aren't at that eye level. You're just looking at what you're looking at. But when you have children, you're more likely to have someone walk into you because you're not looking where you're going. See, because you're looking at the kid's eye level.
That's what I love about Dean with kids, because you can tell he was a parent because he gets down on their level.
Yes.
When he interacts with them. And I appreciate that about him. Again, not having kids, but having been a caregiver for kids for quite a few years, you kind of got to get down to their level. You know, you got to get into their conversation at their level. They ain't gonna, they ain't gonna go up to yours.
They can't meet you.
So you have to do that. And I really appreciate that with him.
I suppose, actually, I should amend my statement. It's not people that don't have children. It's people that don't have children in their orbit. Because Sandra doesn't have children, but she's very familiar with it. Like, she's had children in her life, in her orbit. So it's, you know, I will degeneralize. But yeah, as the story goes on, and again, I haven't finished it, the times when Sam becomes Sammy are getting more, and he's losing more and more of himself to inevitably become his full 4-year-old self. And it's, some of it's really cute and really funny, and some of it's really fucking heartbreaking. Really. And that's my takeaway from these two fics. That they're honestly, if anything, more heartbreaking than some of the adults like fics that I've read. And I'm like, guys, you can torture them as big people. Why are you gonna make them children and then be like, all the one? That's just me.
I feel like though, like I would probably maybe search a couple more of these out, just because I feel like it's a different take, you know, than I've really looked at them before, you know, like with the wump factor. Like, I feel like it's a different angst, and probably provides a different sense of comfort that I might want to look at again. So I feel like this has given me it's given me an appreciation for it, that I think I'd be like, okay, I might not just immediately gloss over this like I did in the past, you know? So
I definitely think there's fun, and children are inherently funny things. I think especially with a physically de-aged but mentally still the same.
I think that's the thing too. That makes it funnier,
That's
like
funny.
where we were just being gutted left and right in the other one because they are just babies through and
They're
through.
babies. Yeah.
In As You Were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, again, with the regarding Dean thing, that whole mentally regressed but not physically, like, I find that quite difficult to cope with. So that wouldn't be it for me. But this whole physically little, mentally still an adult, that's funny.
Yeah.
And there is moments of, real kind of like, especially as Sam keeps having these Sammy episodes, and he comes out of one and he's stacking shotgun shells. That's what Dean's given him to play with, salt shells. And he goes and like finds Dean and he's like, at least you gave me something manly to play with this time. And Dean's like, well, I was going to give you the gun, but Bobby said no. Like, that's funny, There's an instance where Bobby lets Sam have the TV and Sam finds Dean a warrior princess, which is a fucking kick-ass show, by the way. And obviously then gets the dog's frisbee and like wraps Dean's leather jacket around his throat as a cape and just creates all kinds of havoc that only a 4-year-old imitating a superhero can create. And it's honestly, it's hysterical. It's so funny. It's just really funny. And the way the way that Sam gets his way, I think is like, as an actual real child, it wouldn't be funny because if one of my kids started kicking people on the shins, I would have something to say about it. But the way that Sam gets his point across is to kick Dean on the shins because he knows Dean is not going to kick him back because he's 4. And that's really funny. And the chapter that I've just finished, they have like Sam is trying to do something that is opposed to what Dean and Bobby are trying to do, and I don't know what it is yet. But Dean won't leave him alone, and he won't leave him with Bobby because that was the Xena incident. So now he's like, nope, you have to come with me. And Sam wants to give Dean and Bobby the slip to do something. So he's like, well, you can just leave me here. You don't need me to go pick this stuff up. And Dean's like, I'm not leaving you here. Look what happened the last time I left you here. You fucking Xena warrior princess for the afternoon. Stop it. So Sam's like, all right, let's go. Like, fucking squares up to him. All 3'5" of him, 3'6" of him. And he ends up getting the upper hand on Dean because he kicks him in the shin and just like climbs up onto his back and like puts his like locks his arms around Dean's neck. And that is, while it gives me peak anxiety, I have seen my children on my husband's back like that. And I was like, oh my God, that is, and just the idea of kicking Dean in the shin so he like leans over and then scrabbling up onto his back. And they have like it's not really a fight, but it's Sam kind of like trying to get Dean on the floor and leveraging, like, he can't leverage his weight. So he's leveraging like bouncing Dean off things like a pinball.
Yeah.
And the way he gets the upper hand is, and again, I've seen my children do this to my husband, puts his hands over Dean's eyes so Dean can't see what's happening, and then just fucking pinballs him around Bobby's junkyard.
Yeah.
And it's Sam ends up winning by virtue of tickling, which is just fucking, that's really, really great. And that's one of my lines from this, because like he sort of like ends up sat on Dean's stomach, and he's tickling him, and what Dean does is gets his foot up underneath Sam, or maybe both feet. And you must have seen like parents doing aeroplane with the kids where you balance their stomach on your feet. Yeah. So Dean ends up doing that and like lifting Sam off him with his feet. And Sam's like, I'm a little too old for aeroplane. And Dean goes, don't you think I'm a little too old to be tickled just short of pissing myself? Hysterical. Hilarious.
I think there's one scene that I really liked too, where Sam is looking at himself in the mirror and the shock of himself younger. And he mentioned something about like, there's something not quite right about his eyes. And then he realizes it's because of all the experiences that he hasn't had, to kind of go through yet. And how I think he immediately focuses on, I'm too vulnerable. I'm not going to be strong enough for Dean. Like this needs to get fixed so I can make sure that Dean doesn't, go ahead with the deal. Like that the demon deal doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah, actually that's a really good point. This is taking place in Dean's year after Cold Oak. So in and amongst all of this, you've got this Dean is extremely concerned that he's not going to be able, they're not going to be able to fix Sam, and what is going to happen to Sam.
And Sam's thinking, what am I going to do for Dean? Like that kind of a situation. It's very, it really, I think in this one, you really get more of the brother dynamic. Right away.
I think the other one was very much the Castiel Dean relationship, which is it's totally fine, but this is very much that, that Winchester, like brotherly,
like epic romance is one of
they're both kind of like leapfrogging in front of each other to face the big bad for the other. But there's a line while Dean's thinking about this, and it's because soon he feared the only thing he would be able to do for his brother was die. That's so fucking powerful.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. So if you have read Goodnight Moon, no spoilers, but if you haven't read it, I can confidently give this a recommendation, even though I haven't finished it. Go read it, because there's funny, and there's humor, and there's crack, and there's tiny little, would you judge me if I stomped my foot right now? Like, that's funny.
Yeah.
That is comedy in a child experience through an adult's eyes in a way that you can never, what would it be like to have the mind of an adult but be stuck in a 3.5 foot body, That's
definitely I like I said, I'm going to finish it. It's just, it unfortunately was not in my time frame to finish it, but I definitely
I will finish it. I will have to finish it today because it's got me like this kind of who's going to be the one to, like, who's going to be the leapfrog in front when the hammer comes down has got me like, oh fuck. But also excuse me, Sam has just done something, and now I'm like, what have you done? What have you fucking done? So I will have finished this but by the end of today. But go read it and let us know your thoughts. And go read
If You Want Your Heart Ripped Out As You Were by Kat Zen. We'll link them both in the description.
We'll link them both before. And I like a massive shout out to Edge for putting us onto this topic and being like, nudge, you should go read these. Because this is an untapped place, I think.
Yeah, most definitely.
That I definitely do want to explore carefully. Because I would like the, haha, what if you were 24 in the body of a foil? Like, I want that. That's funny. I don't want, what if you held the weight on your shoulders and you couldn't understand it as a foil? That's not funny to me. Give me the funny.
Fault. That was my find. Okay. That was my find. But
that's okay though.
I did like that. I think, again, it was definitely different from what Edge gave us. And I think I was kind of searching for that, like, and being shorter, but then also had a different vibe, feel to it in terms of relationship explored, and just the fact that, one is physically de-aged, one is just all the way, like it's all the way happening situation. So I like that. But I think we're going to try to wrap this up. I will say I was not able to find the art for As You Were by Kat Zen. I did a little bit of digging on Tumblr, found the Tumblr page, still couldn't find it in terms of the challenge. If anybody finds that art, could you please let us know? Because I would love to see.
I would also love to see it.
Was, what the inspiration was for that writing. Because since it was reverse, it was the art first, and then came the writing. But I think we're going to wrap up because we got another episode to record. But
we're on a time
advisory. Yes, advisory. So we want to thank you guys for listening. We want to know what you thought of the episode. So email us at idlinginttheimpala@gmail.com. Comment on Spotify in the Q&A section. Leave a YouTube comment. Join our Discord and chat with fellow idlers and us in real time. Check out our merch store, which is another fun way to show your support. You can find details for everything on our website, idlinginttheimpala.com. Want to fuel our supernatural road trip? Consider joining us on Ko-fi. For as little as $1 a month, we have perks to go along with different membership tiers and would love to have you along for the ride.
Don't forget, you can support us for free by liking, commenting, and subscribing on YouTube, and following, rating, and sharing on audio platforms. Engagement like that really helps us with the algorithms. All hail their benevolence. As always, we have the causes that we support in the description. So you have LGBTQ plus talking charities from me. You have mental health charities from Sandra. You have USA election information. Keep yourself informed and up to date as November closes in. And remember, it's a jump to the left, not a step to the right, to bastardize the Rocky Horror Picture Show and the Tenacious D cover of Time Warp. And this is actually the only episode that I'm going to get to put this in, so I'm not prepared, and there's no point in putting any links or stuff in because they'll be like 2 days. But on the 4th of July, the UK is having our general election. Gold star, is she? Thought you were going to hold it out to December, mate, but you bottled it. Fair enough. So, if you are in the UK, fucking vote. Like, vote. Seriously. Like, I know they're all the same. There's no point. But we have lived under Tory rule for like 15 years now, and look at the fucking state we're in. Labour might not be any better, right? But it definitely ain't going to get any fucking better if we give the Tories another go at this. So, get out and vote. Take a look at the parties that are in your area, in your constituency, and vote tactically. And I know it leaves a fucking gross taste in your mouth, because it leaves a fucking gross taste in my mouth that I'm going to have to vote for Labour. But if I don't vote for Labour, I've handed my vote to the Conservative Party, and that cannot stand, okay? Take a look, see who the best person to vote for tactically is in your area, because it's not going to be Labour in all areas. But get out. Get your ex in the fucking boxes, all right?
Are you going to have something to link that I can put in, maybe for at the bottom? The descriptions?
Yeah, I'll find something. I'll find something.
Okay.
Normally, I'd be all like, right cunt on your ballot. Not this one, all right? Not this one. Vote tactically, all right? It's a jump to the left, not a step to the right. Come on. We're like, because it might not be much better under anybody else, but it definitely ain't going to be better under them. So 4th of July, get out and vote. I will have information in the description when this episode comes out. And as always, the main causes that we are supporting is World Central Kitchen and Doctors Without Borders. We are championing, highlighting, spotlighting any other adjective that means to draw attention to these charities. Both of them are on the ground working in the Ukraine to help those still affected by Russia's unlawful invasion of the Ukraine, and in Gaza, which is caught in the crossfire of the war between Israel and Hamas. This is not political. It doesn't matter which side of these issues you stand on. We are coming at this from a purely humanitarian view. There are people in the Ukraine and Gaza, and they are trapped. They are cut off from basic human rights like food, water, and shelter, and they're dying. They didn't ask for war, and we want to help the people that are risking their lives to help them. If you cannot or do not want to donate financially, that's absolutely fine. Just sharing the links around social media helps massively to keep these issues in the public eye and get people in need all the help that we can. So with that, we will say thank you to Edge for putting us onto these de-aging fics. We hope you enjoyed the inaugural Tags and Tropes episode, and we will say thank you for joining us in the backseat, and we'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.